Hi, everyone. This is Casey Lai, founder and CEO of Prometheum, and love to spend this time to talk about maybe some use cases in terms of how people have built data products, some of the capabilities of the data products, and why that has led to success. So please make this, I want people to make sure that they know that this is actually going to be interactive. It'd be better for me if it's actually interactive, a lot more fun. But definitely, love to share with you kind of our learnings and so forth. So what I want to maybe I can do is share my presentation. So I'm trying to do that. Your screen. Let's see. Okay. Jim, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Great, fantastic. So as we talked about in the data fabric, I think it's very important to kind of first and foremost kind of recognize the foundational capability of data fabric, and that is it's supposed to give you a unified view and access to not just the different sources, but also the different products you have. And the key for doing this successfully is not having to physically copy data and move data, because that would create more messes from a governance perspective, security perspective, quite frankly, also cost perspective, right? So that's very important to kind of think about that. And so I believe that, the main goal is that, you kind of have to figure out how to stitch it together so that you can have that fast and easy delivery, right, of integrated products to the right people in the right shape at the right time. And so we kind of see kind of the first part is, just knowing what you have, right? That, cataloging, discovery, and governance framework, that's super important, right? And then have the ability to assemble, right? So it's not enough to just find, and it's not enough to just, build a product somewhere else and dump it somewhere. I think it's also important that you can build a data product within the data fabric, right? That's going to give you much, much more relevancy and adoption if people can leverage the fabric to also build and to also consume, right? And one of the things that we believe is actually core to consumption is people need help, right? So you do need some AI to kind of guide people. Hey, maybe you want to check this out, or based on the question that you're asking, maybe this is the right one for you to pick, or hasn't been created, but let me help you create it. These are some of the things I think stands out in terms of Prometheum's approach of building a data fabric. Is yes, you have that great foundation of a single unified view that gives you consistent view of all your distributed data and unify the access piece. But it's a lot more than that, right? How do you now help people build? How do you now give them the suggestions, the automation to actually do that so that they can have easy consumption? And then how do you do that in a governed and secure manner, right? With all the stuff that enterprises accept, like access control, masking, SSO, et cetera. And that's really kind of how we see, foundations of a strong data fabric. So, one use case would be, say, self-service analytics, right? Where, typically if you're trying to answer a new question and the data set doesn't exist yet, or no one's put together a query, this is where it usually takes a lot of different steps, going through a lot of different people. And, a lot of times there's no workflow, there's no product workflow. You have to buy multiple products. It's complex. There's a lot of code. That's what most people kind of deal with today, right? And so with a data fabric, imagine if a lot of that hard work is already done, and you can simply ask and then help ask the data fabric to help you build, because it already is tied to all the different sources. It has that aspect of governance to help you trust, and it has the virtualization capabilities to help you stitch and put things together. And so you can very quickly, put this foundation together, put AI and automation on top of it to then automate, right, the creation of new data products very, very quickly, so that you can go back to the fast consumption that I talk about, consume and verify, right? I think one of the things that people have assumed is that when people ask a question, they know exactly what they want, and then when people build an answer, they know they're going to build it right the first time. It's rarely that way, right? People don't exactly know what they want until they see the output. People don't get the right output unless they go through a few iterations with the consumer. And so it's very key that this is a dynamic and flexible and bi-directional approach so that you can quickly reiterate, because that is what the real world is actually like. And so it's kind of important to kind of think about, if you're thinking about a fabric, think about the unified view, unified access. Active metadata, we're a big fan of. We're also a big fan of rich API layers, obviously creating data products. And then, we believe kind of the AI and NLP piece is really, really foundational for easy automation and easy consumption for business users. And so some of the ways that people have leveraged data fabrics, is, being able to kind of see where all your inventory is, right? If you're in retail, right? And being able to see where you have surplus inventory, where you have, a deficiency in inventory, and being able to reallocate them very, very quickly, right? As the case with this customer, they had, sometimes during the wintertime, the places that are cold need winter tires, but the places that are hot have a whole bunch of winter tires that no one's buying. But how do you get the right product to the places that are now maybe on the East Coast where they badly need the winter tires? And how do you do that very quickly, right? And that's where Prometheum really came in and said, hey, what if we can show you where everything is, the different type of inventory you have in different location, where you have the overage, where you have the deficiency in inventory, and how to quickly reallocate so that you don't have to order new inventory, right? And so this helps with not only being able to fulfill the sales, the orders, in the places that can't get them, but it also helps you, not have to order excessive inventory, not have inventory costs, right? And the other is, in say a warehousing environment for, again, retail or CPG, where you have to ship things from a physical warehouse or distribution center right onto trucks. One of the challenges is like, how do you figure out what staging lanes are open, right? And what products goes into what staging lane, and how do you make sure the trucks are aligned with the proper staging lane? How do you make sure the trucks aren't waiting a long time? So being able to figure that out quickly, regardless of where the data is, and how to answer that question very quickly for people on the factory floor is really important. And in this case, the customer was waiting 15 minutes every single time. You might say, well, 15 minutes is not a big deal, but it actually is, because it compounds, right? Every time you want to know, where do I put this? That's 15 minutes. And think about every single time that has to happen, and think about how that now compounds. So the trucks could be waiting for hours. And it could pile up, and sometimes it could even be delayed by days. And that eats into SLAs, that can eat into profitability, revenue recognition, and so forth. And so something like a data fabric, being able to not only find it, build it, but let people consume it, being able to kind of cut that time of telling you, well, this is where this product should go, from 15 minutes down to 13 seconds, right, is really powerful in terms of being able to now take advantage of this data product to make a data-driven decision that actually significantly impacts the business, right? Before I get into like architecture, are there any questions so far?
Okay, you see you've got 3 in your private chat, you can see.
Oh my gosh, let me stop sharing.
Also, Wayne made a comment, but you'll see at least 3 comments or questions.
All right, let me field these. Okay, first one is, what does AI enhanced data fabric mean or translate to? Great question. So what it translates to is leveraging AI to help you do a lot of the processes to build the data products. So data fabric has a foundation, as we talked about, of discovery and access, and then on top of that, being able to build. But if you still require super duper power users to know exactly what to pick, exactly how to build, then you're never going to get the rate of consumption and adoption that you really want. And the great thing is, in the age of AI, you now have the ability to help accelerate that, help people curate faster, help them find faster, help them build faster, suggest how to put data products together, suggest how to give the visualization the final output. So that's what a AI enhanced data fabric means, right? Let's see. Okay. Someone said, isn't this far-fetched concept today when data fabric itself isn't widely implemented? So good question. So look, there's a lot of advanced capabilities in data fabric. You don't have to consume all of them today. Just by having the ability to get one single unified view and simplify access to one access point without moving the data, that in itself has enough value, tremendous value. Most organizations, if you go to their CIO or CDO, say, hey, if I can solve your problem where you now have one place, one API called make to find and access your data, you can start there. Like, you don't have to go all the way and consume every capability, right? There's a lot of advanced capabilities. So everyone can consume at their pace. But solving discoverability and data access and linking them together will already put you right well ahead of the curve. Okay. And then, are we talking of having a data fabric that will enhance AI capabilities? So working backwards, you design the DF views to meet the SLA performance. So you can think of it as being able to enhance AI capabilities where you are shortening the amount of time of training your LLMs and your AI models, because you're avoiding a lot of junk that's going into them. So that's one way you can think about in terms of enhancing AI capabilities. The other way is leveraging AI on top of a data fabric to enhance discoverability, governance, data integration, data prep, and data product building capabilities. So those are kind of two sides of the same coin. So you can either enhance AI or use AI to enhance your traditional data analytics processes. Okay. Good questions. Let's see. All right. So let's talk about architecture a little bit. So we believe that in order for data fabric to be adopted by the enterprise, you have to adhere to security, right? And you have to adhere to kind of most enterprises govern. So the way that we've approached it is a little bit different from what most would do. So you'll notice that what we've done is we've actually have two components of the product. We have the metadata and kind of AI component, which is the Prometheum scope. It's going to be in our cloud. And we have the intelligent edge, think of it as the data access component. And that can be deployed in the customer's VPC. So that way it's behind the customer's firewall. Customers can control, what they want to open, who they want access to. They can lock down access. And more importantly, all the data access now happens, within the customer's environment. So you don't have to worry about, do I have to move data to the cloud, to Prometheum? Do I have to let Prometheum query from Prometheum's cloud? None of that. All the query access happens directly inside of the customer's environment. The customer controls that. The publishing happens behind the customer's firewall. So if we want to materialize any of the work products to the customer's existing data warehouse, data lake, or publish it to their existing BI tool and have the BI tool consume, you can now do that all freely and securely, right? And I think that's a very, very important concept, is that you don't have to compromise security just to get the flexibility and the agility, right, of getting data products that are fast and easy to consume. This is nothing more than a Kubernetes container that's installed here, and so a lot of kind of intelligent and serverless capabilities here, right? Where You can just determine when to scale up and when to scale down, right? Your data cluster, we use Trino, right, for data access. You can also access and push down access directly down to underlying data sources. We have our own visualization where you can push to your existing BI tool. You can choose to have your own LLM here as well. So that way you can also get a private LLM, or you can consume public LLM and block, all the stuff that you don't want to give to the LLM, only giving it trusted, curated, tokens, but then not having to give it data access. So there's a lot of advantages and flexibility, right, with this architecture here. And then furthermore on security, even if someone were to hack the Prometheum scope on the left-hand side, which is kind of where our index is and so forth, they cannot actually access your data, right? There's no data resides in Prometheum scope, and the Prometheum scope cannot actually trigger any data access or queries or pipeline jobs. That can only be done by an authenticated user, right, in the customer's environment. That's the bridge between the Prometheum scope and the intelligent edge. So super easy and super flexible, but also very, very secure to deploy. And it's sort of composable, right? You can actually choose what you want to use. You don't have to use all of them if you don't want us to do. If you don't have data virtualization needs and you just want to push everything down, great. If you want us to be the query engine going forward, you can now push all your queries onto the intelligent edge, and it has auto scaling capabilities to handle very, very large loads and be successful there. We can do the pipelining, or you can leverage dbt. dbt is also integrated into the product. So a lot of flexibility and composability. And that's actually one of the strengths of a data fabric, is that you can still use a lot of the existing pieces, right? From your BI tool, existing catalogs, maybe existing, pipeline tools. And the fabric can still give you that same consistent experience of finding the data, building the data product, and consuming it as if it was all built in Prometheum using Prometheum's native services, right? So you don't have to compromise on that same consistent experience. And that's actually very key, right? We're not trying to make it where, haha, you're going to get a crappy experience if you don't use all our services. We believe that it's very convenient and much more flexible, as well as much lower in cost, right? If all these apps or services are already built on the fabric, right? An app for governance, an app for pipeline building, an app for data virtualization, for visualization, because you don't have to spend any money doing integration, right? And you don't have to worry about handing it off to multiple tools. But even if you didn't, right, the advantage of the fabric is that underlying layer is you can still leverage those components and still give people the same unified, consistent experience. Any questions?
You've got 2 new ones going to be coming in your chat.
Okay. How do you handle performance issues of queries when you're stuck with the source system as you basically push down the source? And how do you ensure that the consistent performance? Okay, great question. So query performance is going to be at the heart of every conversation, right? And so Prometheum takes a couple of flexible approaches. One is, if you want to offload the query off of your existing data sources onto Prometheum, inside the intelligent edge is actually a fully implemented, pre-built, comes out of the package Trino cluster, and that Trino cluster is tunable so that you can set it up to have auto scaling capability. So as the query gets bigger, as you consume more resources, it automatically adds more resources to ensure your queries can scale. So that way, you have the ability to do large queries. We've handled queries as big as 300 billion rows before, right? And so that's possible. Two is you can obviously use techniques like caching, right, to kind of accelerate things, or you can figure out kind of how to leverage multiple data sources. Some might process certain types of data, certain structures, a lot better. Maybe I use some of this to do in Snowflake first, maybe use some of this to Databricks first, and some of this, in Oracle, and then using data virtualization, you can take the results set, combine them, and then consume it that way. So that's another way, right? So that's how you would get around, like, look, my data source is slow. I don't have to rely on pushing everything down to the data source, right? For those big, massive queries. Now, what's cool is that once that final query has been built, you can materialize just the result set. So let's say our query was 300 billion rows, but the result set was maybe only 20,000, right? We can now publish just that 20,000 result set back to your operational data store. So now your operational data store, which may have choked at 300 billion rows, is going to be able to much more handle, right, that smaller query of only 20,000 rows. And then you can keep all your operational consumption going from that operational data store of your choice, right? If you don't want to use us as the operational data source. So you have a few options there, right? So it's a very, very flexible architecture. Okay. How does it differ from Dremio or any data virtualization tool? Cool. Okay. So data virtualization is simply a technique, right? Be it Starburst, be it Dremio, et cetera. It's simply just a technique, right? By itself, right? There's still the discoverability, right? There's still the natural language processing. There's still the data prep, the no-code prep. There's still the ability to use NLP to automatically put everything together. There's still the ability to interrogate what's in your BI tool. There's all these things that you need to actually build an end-to-end unified discovery layer, right? That a typical data virtualization tool is not going to have. There's all the things that we have to help build, right, very quickly, especially for non-technical users, that a lot of the data virtualization tools don't have. Right? A lot of the data virtualization tools like Dremio or Starburst, they usually require someone who's somewhat technical, right, to be the user, right? What we pride ourselves in Prometheum is really providing, the interfaces and the workflow and the automation. So while you can still be technical and be a power user, but you can also be a non-technical business user and still be able to build and consume the data products end to end. So I think that's one of the big differences. The other is we are not tied to
AC,
data
sorry to
virtualization.
interrupt, and you've got
Yeah,
about a minute left. Just want to make sure
yeah,
that you're aware of the time.
no worries. Yeah, so we're not tied to data virtualization. So you don't have to use our data virtualization if you don't want to, right? You can use Athena, you can use Dremio, and we still provide that layer. Whereas if you use the other ones, you have to use their data virtualization, which can be good or bad because not everything is optimized for all workloads. So that's different.
Okay, so we're coming up on 1:45. I would encourage, it's been some good conversation via the chat and good questions. Starting at 1:45, there are a number of different topic tables that will be open, and I would encourage all of the participants to join the topic tables that draw them and their interests. Casey, thanks very much for answering all the questions candidly and reasonably completely given the time concern. We're right at 1:45. So if it's okay, I'm going to end the session and encourage folks to join the topic tables. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.